Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs. We're gonna do Thursday night football recap of the Patriots at the Jets. Well, we both called it right, Wiggs. We both picked the Jets. I think we were a little bit off on our scores, but I thought even with the tough Jets defense that the Patriots would have still made it somewhat close. But they struggled today. Brissett couldn't get anything going. I don't even think they really took any shots downfield during the game. He was 12 for 18. He only had 98 yards. Stevenson couldn't get anything going. Gibson had 5 carries for 29 yards. I thought he was going to be more active in the passing game, but he only had 3 receptions, I think, um, you know, for 8 yards. So I thought he would have been more active there. I was a little disappointed that they didn't get the ball in Henry's hands more. I think that's where they kind of failed today. I mean, Douglas had a decent game, 7 catches, 69 yards, but none of the other receivers stepped up. Osborne didn't get a reception. Polk had 2 receptions for 13 yards. Uh, you know, Henry only had 2 receptions for 9 yards. It just was their offense just looked bad. And credit to the Jets defense. I know Wiggs, you didn't really get to watch the game, but I did, and their defense looked the Jets defense looked really good. But even so, that's where you got to get Gibson involved, Henry involved. You need to get those guys involved. You need to get Brissett into a rhythm, to at least build his confidence up. They didn't do that. They didn't change their play calling, and this is what you end up with.
Well, yeah, and I think we touched on that too. I think when we talked about this game yesterday or the day before, I don't remember which day it was, but we were talking about how they need to get a passing game going in order for the run game to be successful. And like you said, I didn't get to watch the game because I was at work, but I'm assuming the Jets loaded up the box and made it really difficult for the running backs on the
Well,
side of New
yeah,
England.
Stevenson didn't have a shot, and it's like I mentioned in our matchup video. Uh, you know, the Patriots need somebody to step up in the receiver group. Douglas, I think, did that tonight because he
A
played a
little bit,
tough
yeah.
defense. Uh, 7 receptions for 69 yards against Sauce Gardner and those defensive backs is not a bad stat, considering who your quarterback is. A lot of that though is kind of deceiving because I know Douglas had a few receptions late in the game
Yeah.
when it was kind of already determined. The outcome was determined. It was kind of garbage time stuff, so that's a little deceiving. So I don't want to sit there and say that Douglas, separated himself. He really didn't. I mean, because I think one of those catches he had was like for 22
Yeah.
yards at the end of the game there. So really, none of the receivers stepped up. And like I said, a big part of that is if you're going to go to Drake May, because they did put Drake May in, he threw 50%, 4 for 8 for 22 yards. He didn't light up the world, obviously, but he was only in there for 1 or 2 drives. and but if you're gonna eventually put May in, you've got to get the quarterback in a rhythm, and the way you do that is you throw to your tight end on your younger quarterbacks. You throw screens. You get them. You build up their confidence and stuff along with the running game. Now, Stevenson, I knew was going to have a hard game today because the Jets are really tough against the run, and it doesn't surprise me that Gibson had a little bit better game, per carry than Stevenson because of their running types. But the Patriots need to figure that piece out, and they're going to continue to struggle if they don't. Here's the other thing too: they're in a division that has the 3 teams that they play. All 3 of them have tough defenses, so at some point, if Brissett can't figure it out, you're going to have to go to your third overall pick, right? I mean, you have to. So they got to start figuring that out. Now on the flip side, I think Aaron Rodgers, he came out today, and he had a great game. Nathaniel Hackett, their offensive coordinator, called a good game. Uh, the one thing I did notice in this game, I mean, Rodgers was 27 to 35. He started off really strong at 281 yards, was 281, and for two touchdowns. So the one thing that we're starting to see is Brees Hall is kind of giving up some carries to Braden Allen. I don't think that's going to impact Brees Hall's fantasy value at all. I still think he's going to put up points like he has. I mean, in each of these games. I think the reason that they're doing it though is it's a long season. They want to make sure that they have Brees Hall all season, especially if they keep putting together some wins here and they make it to the playoffs. He's not going to help them if he gets hurt, right? And they make it to the playoffs. So I will say they got a great 1-2 punch. Braden Allen is a beast, and I'm glad I got him on all my fantasy teams because I had a feeling about him. So I think he wasn't as active in the passing game today, like Brees Hall was. I mean, Brees was targeted a little bit more. He had a little bit better outcome in the passing game and stuff. But uh, Allen averaged 5 yards a carry, and he looked really good. It was nice to see Rodgers throw to Tyler Conklin today. That's what he needs to do. He got Conklin involved. He got Lazard involved. He tried to, you know, target Mike Williams. There was a few times he targeted him in the end zone. One of those times, Williams dropped a pass. Now, in all fairness, it could have been thrown a little bit better, but it still was a catchable ball. I think him and Garrett Wilson are still trying to figure out that chemistry, but he still did get him for a touchdown today. So it's not like, I mean, Garrett still ended up with, like 14, 15 points from a fantasy perspective in PPR. So he was spreading the ball around. You could tell that he looked really comfortable against a tough New England defense. Now, granted, New England lost a couple guys on defense, but even so, it was Aaron Rodgers, right? Yeah. So he still looked really good. And one thing about Rodgers today that was really impressive is he was kind of moving really good. I mean, yeah, he only rushed 3 times for 18 yards, but he was moving around really well in the pocket. A lot better than I've seen him move around the last few years. So I think he's completely recovered from that injury. He looked really good. If he keeps this up and they keep building on this, the Jets are going to be tough this year. They're going to be really tough. So I thought the Patriots were going to give them a little bit closer game.
Yeah, that's a blowout right there. 21 points is wow. I'll say it now. I don't care what anyone says. It's Drake May time. I think we've seen enough of Brissett in 3 weeks. I think it's just time to hand over the reins because realistically, no offense to Brissett, he hasn't done anything spectacular to lock himself down with the role. Your run heavy offense, yes, it didn't go as planned tonight, but Brissett threw 18 times, in the entire game. Like you're built around a run heavy offense, so why not just give your quarterback like the start? I agree with you. Like if you're gonna throw a quarterback in there, you need to either target your tight end or get your running backs the ball. I'm also a huge fan of the first play that he's in, take a shot downfield, let him air it out, get those jitters out. If you complete it, your confidence is already at an all-time high. But then if it goes incomplete, then like you get the jitters out from the first throw.
Yeah, he didn't have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
The Jets were pressuring him all day. They just didn't have a very good game plan. I felt that New England's offensive coordinator blew it with their game plan. He should have known. They should have known going into this that the Jets were going to blitz. They were going to send pressure, which they did. All game. I mean, so that's why you gotta. I mean, Gibson's really good in this. Coming out of the backfield catching the ball. Stevenson's really good coming out of the backfield catching the ball. Henry's proven that he's a quality tight end. In the NFL. Hooper, the other tight end that they have, he had a couple good years with the Falcons. I mean, he's not a bad tight end. They they just didn't have a very good game
They
plan.
just need to get. I mean,
And
they haven't
so,
had a good game plan all year. Their game plan was,
well,
here's Stevenson, here's the ball. Like, that's all it's been all year
well,
so
and
far.
like I said, I don't know that they're going to switch. I doubt they're going to switch quarterbacks right now. I think they're gonna keep dragging along with Brissett. I don't disagree with you that it wouldn't. To me, I think at some point you got to think about when are you going to plug in your third overall pick to see what you got.
Yeah,
right?
because I feel like Drake
mean,
may
if your season is if your season's not going the way you expected, you should be throwing in your third overall pick for a couple reasons. One, let's say they lose a few more games, right? Right now they're 1-2. Let's say they go 1-4, 1-5, whatever it is, right? At that point, statistically, you're probably not gonna, have a good shot of making the playoffs, especially in the division you're in. The second reason that you'd want to throw them in there is if 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 you are not having a very good season, why not throw them in there and see what you got? Because if you do continue to lose games, even with him in there,
you just wasted potential.
well, no. What I'm saying is that if you throw him in there and you keep losing games, and you see that maybe he's not the guy, you're still going to get a high draft pick next year where you can draft another quarterback. I don't think. I think Drake May. Nobody's seen him enough to really make that judgment yet, so it's not fair to say will he be the guy, will he or won't he be the guy, and stuff. But I think that at some point you drafted him with your third overall pick. Uh, you spent a lot of draft value on that, so you got to see what you have, and I understand why they started with Brissett, but Brissett is not the answer.
No.
He's never been the answer as a starting quarterback. He's always been a backup at best. He can fill in for a few games, but he's not going to be your overall number one quarterback. So at some point, you got to come up with a plan and say, okay, if we're here, and you look at this, if we're 1-5 or 1-6, whatever it is, even 1-4, and stuff, depending on who you're playing, at some point you got to say, okay, when do we make the switch? And I can guarantee you that Robert Kraft is going to be, talking to Coach Mayo there in New England and saying, listen, we've invested a number 3 overall pick on this guy. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here like looking at it, from a number standpoint, like I do a lot of times. Brissett throws for 150 yards week 1. He throws 170 week 2, and then he doesn't even hit 100 this week. We're talking like on average about 130 yards a game. Respectfully, I think Drake May could be doing that himself already, if not more. So, like, to me, it wouldn't hurt to put him in because Brissett really hasn't shown anything in this offense, and you're really just relying on your running backs to pop off and play. That's what they've done so far. It didn't work today. We talked about it before. If you can't get your receiving game going, it's not always going to be there to run the ball every single game over and over again with Stevenson. And it shows.
Well, and they didn't have a good game plan trying to get the ball into the receiver's hands today. They knew they were playing one of the best defense in the league. They knew they were going up against one of the best defensive backfields in the league. So, you had to come up with a game plan outside of running the ball to get the quarterback going. It didn't help that they fell behind right away, which they did. So that, that kind of takes you in panic mode and takes you out of your running game. And as you can tell, I mean, their 2 running backs carried the ball 11 times combined. So they panicked. They still have the ability to run the ball. They just didn't do it. So New England's going to struggle here. I think, and they need to figure it out. But they also need to start pushing their younger receivers and seeing who's going to step up. Is it going to be Douglas? Is it going to be Polk? I mean, where's KJ Osborne? I mean, you brought in KJ Osborne as one of your big free agent signings, and he didn't even get targeted. I mean, I don't think he had a single target in tonight's game. So, I mean, where is your receivers and stuff? So, they've got a lot of issues, and they lost one of their key guys on defense. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for them. Hopefully that they'll get him back. I don't think it was anything too serious, but they're not going to be able to rely on their defense all year in this division because these quarterbacks in their division are going to eat them up. I mean, even the Dolphins with their backup quarterback, at some point, they're going to eat them up. I mean, they're going to have to play Buffalo, twice. They got to play the Jets one more time. They're just in a tough conference. So, anything else to add, Wiggs? All right, well, with that, check us out, Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're also out on Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, X. Subscribe, like, share, give us feedback. We appreciate the feedback. If you have any questions, ask away. We'll give you, straightforward answers. Just remember, we're here to give you another option outside of the other people that are out there, and we hope you enjoy the content and you'll continue to see it, and we appreciate it. Thanks. Have a good day.